No.
You just get to start.
I just get to start? Okay, so we're just gonna start with the budget presentation. Board members, mission and vision statement, and then the key components of the projection budget is basically what we're doing the budget hearing for. The main premise of the budget hearing is to understand the components of the projection budget and what was used to formulate that budget. The biggest piece of our revenue is the tax revenue that comes in, and we did have a Headley rollback this year, but we approved over 18 mills. You're only legally allowed to collect 18 mills. We approved over 18 mills, so we have not dropped below that yet. So even with the rollback, we're still okay at collecting the 18 mills for operating in our taxable values. So with that being said, that's what I used in our projection budget. I also used dropping 15 FTE. This is the first year I would say that we have not really had concrete information on the federal or the state side. Usually you have one or the other that's kind of concrete or somewhat similar. This year we really don't know. We don't have our federal estimated allocations. We don't have our state aid budget in place. So everything's kind of up in the air. So with this budget, with the projection budget, my assumptions were based on worst case scenario, because to me, I don't know what's gonna happen at this point, so this is my best guess. So with that being said, I looked at what the pupil enrollment was in October, and then what it was in February, and then kind of took a little bit of a guesstimate of where it could be, knowing that kids kind of come and go in between those times. So not being exactly sure, I went with 55 FTE lost. I budgeted for no increase in the foundation allowance, because right now they're talking about giving an increase in the foundation allowance, but they're also talking about taking away several of the categoricals, which could equate to less. So at this point, I just played it safe with the budget and said we're gonna be down 55 kids, and we're not gonna expect to see any increase in the foundation allowance. So also with that being said, you know, the blended count accounts for more than 75% of our revenue coming in on the revenue side of things. And the pupil foundation allowance is based on 90% of your fall count and 10% of your February count. So it kind of goes calendar year. So it's based on the February of 25 count, and the October of 25 count is our blended pupil count for the entire year. Federal revenues, basically all I did with our federal revenues, we have several, I shouldn't say several, a few pots of money that are covering mainly just staffing. So my take on that was, I'm gonna budget for enough to cover that staffing at those levels, because we don't know what the federal levels are gonna come in at. So, whoops, well, I just passed it. I'm gonna go back. It's not gonna let me go back. And then with state, I kind of did the same thing with the state grants that we have. We don't know what the levels of those are going to be, so I basically budgeted for exactly what I knew we were going to have and carry over for our staffing, so those items are all covered in this budget. I also budgeted for step increases in the upcoming year, as well as a 2% increase for all employees. I used an increase for the health insurance of a 13% increase. We've been forewarned that it will definitely be double-digit increases this year. So I used 13%, hoping that that's safe. I increased electricity and gas by about 5%, hoping that we'll be somewhere in that range based on this year's. Staffing levels, we pretty much budgeted for 2 additional teachers at Larson. One, and that would be at the Young Fives and first grade for Larson. And then we also still have a ML teacher posted for Larson, hoping to fill that position. We added a ML paraprofessional position at Lake Middle School, which would equate to having 1 ML paraprofessional for each grade level at the middle school. And then in addition to those positions, we're adding a dean of students at the high school. And then we would be moving our part-time ML director to a full-time position. There are a few positions that we've had posted, ELA interventionist that we've had posted for the middle school that we haven't been able to fill. And then I think there was one other position that we hadn't been able to fill yet. So I left those positions in the budget at the current level that they were at. The halftime ML director position, or the halftime position that the ML director had at the high school for teaching, I left that in the budget as well, just not knowing exactly what they're going to do with that, what the needs might be. Other items that I included in the projection budget were was some literacy curriculum. We're going to be required to have new literacy curriculum in place in 2027. So I put some money in the budget for literacy curriculum, having no idea what that's going to cost. I kind of spread it throughout the budget, just hoping that we'll get some good estimates. I know Gary's working on a grant for that because there is some money that's available. We just don't know how much we would get. So I budgeted for the full amount. If we get the grant, great, that will reduce the expenses that we have. If we don't, we've got it in there and we can use it for that purpose. I also included in there replacing the high jump and pole vault pits for track, as those are in pretty rough shape and need to be replaced. And then I also have in there purchasing a trailer and a scissor lift for the maintenance department so that it would make it a little easier for them to be able to clean in different areas. They have to rent those quite a bit. And then I also included the purchase of 2 more vans as well as a bus. And we still have the bus that was approved at the last meeting, but it won't be delivered until November, so that will be rolled into the next budget. Our purpose and intent of the transportation funds that we get from the state was to be able to do the buses and the vans, and we don't know where that's going to land next year. I have them in there. If we don't get that money and we don't feel like we can spend that money, we can remove them from the budget with the exception of the one, and I carried the money over from that one.
Are those vans going to tip over though?
No.
Okay.
Has the height been checked on them?
We haven't looked at those yet, no. So this is going backwards.
Yeah.
Saw one the other day.
Maybe it says Billsboro seat tonight.
Yeah, I like it.
So that's pretty much the premise of the projection budget is basically, it's just a guide for what I expect the next year to look like and what I'm hoping will turn out to be much better. But at this point, we just don't have much information to go on. So I've used everything that I'm fully aware of. I've also talked to other people in different districts. We all kind of try to work together to figure out what we're doing and what we're expecting and what we're hearing. And so that was pretty much my best guess of where we were going to be with that. And so with the projection budget, it's showing that we would be at an 18.9% fund equity. Worst case scenario, I hope that we're not there and I don't expect us to be there, but worst case scenario, that's where we would be, and we would still be above the 18% that the board requires. So we're hoping that's not the case. So this just shows kind of what the fund equity has done from June of 2015 to June of 2024. It's steadily increasing. Obviously, we want to make sure that we're spending the money appropriately, and we're making sure everybody is getting what they need and that we're spending down the fund equity. This is another one that is just kind of going over the per pupil allocation and how it's changed over the years. If you look at 15-16, our per pupil allocation was $7,391. 24-25, we're at $9,608. So it's increased steadily. The problem with this piece of it is it doesn't show all the categoricals that change that impact that number. So it kind of skews that a little bit. We're guaranteed to get in a foundation allowance $4,302. And then the discretionary payment is $4,806 of that. So, and then this is just a chart that is done by the state of Michigan to show revenues that come in and how they're divided up into each of the different pots. So this is just a good guide for people to see and help them understand how much money is going in and out. Keeps doing that. And then this is another showing our student growth and decline over the past 17 years. So if you look at this again, it's breaking it down by the blended count. So from 23-24, we were up in the fall count, and then you can see in the spring count, we were down from 23-24. So some of those are it's just kind of cyclical. It just depends on what's happening in the community and that kind of stuff. Again, this is just a graph chart kind of showing you where we've been and where we're at with the pupil blended count. And then this just shows you how the foundation allowance is built and how much money you get in your 18 mills operating, and then how it's combined at the state level and how they equate to the per pupil funding amount. So again, this is just kind of a nice guide to show people where the money is coming from. And then obviously it's the 18 mills of operational cost, which equates to approximately $3,008 per pupil. And then the state contributes approximately $6,600, and those revenue sources are basically the 6 mills, which include sales tax, income tax, use tax, cigarette tax, liquor, all of that. The base, again, for 24-25 was $9,608, and I've left it the same for this year. And then, again, explaining how the breakdown is of the calendar count. This is a description of the major function codes that are in the budget. The state requires us to follow a manual, an accounting manual, and this just gives each of the descriptions on what categories each item is in for those programs. So your basic programs are going to be your instructional, your teachers, that kind of stuff. Your added needs is anything supplemental, which is always going to be like your Title I or your at-risk programs or special needs programs, some of that kind of stuff. Pupil services is typically like your counselors, those type of things. Instructional staff is basically any type of PD that we're running. And then general administration is typically going to be the superintendent, the board of ed, that kind of stuff. And then the school administration is going to be your principals, their secretaries, that type of expenditure. So business services is pretty much just that, accounts payable, payroll. Operations and maintenance is our maintenance and custodial department. Transportation is transportation. Central services sometimes can have some different things in it. Those are really just, I guess there's some human resource and information technology in there. That's basically the tech services. And then other support services are typically going to be your athletics. And the community services are usually parent engagement activities through the grants is what is typically in there. We also have some money that flows through to the private schools that is also included in there. And then the transfers are basically any funds that are flowing in between funds, which are going to be your food service, preschool, that kind of stuff, anytime money is going in between funds. So moving on to the 24-25 amended budget. We did a budget amendment last, it was in April, and so basically that budget got us a lot closer to where I figured we were going to end the year. This budget gets us pretty well there. We have a little bit of extra money in there for any expenses that might come in because we're running this budget through the end of June, and so I still have to account for any expenses that are happening all through June, whether they're here yet or not. I have to account for anything that may come in. So for this budget, for the general fund budget, we have revenues of $38,217,000, which is a decrease of about $3,107,000. And some of that is basically because I am removing federal revenues that I know we're not going to use, and I'm removing state revenues that I know we're not going to use.
She's just telling us she's lazy. Is that why we can't buy anything?
No.
Yeah, because she's lazy.
So then, on the expenditure side of stuff, we have $35,988,648, which is a decrease of $4,051,785. And again, a lot of that is going to be due to just getting the cost closer, tighter to what I know they're going to be. A lot of the bills have come in by now, so I can get stuff really close and adjusting for grants. So at the end of this year, we're projecting that we'll be at a 31.4% fund equity. And there's there's contingencies in this budget of about $215,000 just for anything that will come in that we may not expect. But given the budget for next year, we have plans to spend it down. So I'm not super concerned about that. I think that we're on the right track, and I think, you know, the projection budget gives us some time. Once we know the actual numbers, then we can start planning for what else we want to do with those funds. And then for the preschool daycare fund, you'll notice with this budget is usually pretty close, as in what we're bringing in and what we're spending in expenses. We've raised rates to accommodate for this and to make sure that we're staying in line with where we need to be. So we still have to transfer some money from the general fund. I budgeted at $60,000. I'm hoping to not have to transfer that much, but they have to have it for cash flow purposes in that fund, because when payrolls due, they don't always have all the money in their account. So again, you don't want this fund to have a ton of money in their fund equity, because we don't want to make money on it. We just want to break even with the preschool fund. The food service fund, again, a lot of the food service fund is federal revenues. We get a little bit of money from the state for the food service budget, but mainly it's all federal. So for this, again, it's mainly just staffing. I also try to take indirect cost out of food service, because that's one of the only ways that you can get money out of food service to go into general fund. This year it's a little less than last year, but we're looking at approximately $35,000 is what I'm hoping to be able to transfer in indirect cost. The debt service fund, again, is basically just your tax collections, what you're bringing in, and then what you're paying out for your debt for the bonds. And we're in good shape there. The sinking fund, again, is the same thing. You are basically it's your tax collections and what you're spending out of the sinking fund. This year we had just a couple projects that we did out of the sinking fund. We replaced the hot water lines at the high school boiler room, and then we had the chemical waste line that we also replaced. And then we're replacing a boiler room door at Lincoln. They weren't able to get the boiler room door done at Lincoln before June 30th, so we're gonna roll that into next year, but that'll come out of sinking fund. So we're gonna start making some plans for how we wanna start spending the sinking fund dollars in the upcoming year, but those were just a few of the projects that we did for this year. And then this activity, the special revenue fund, is basically just the student activity funds. And those just are really dependent on how much the students raise, how much they spend, what projects they do, what type of things they do for homecoming. All of those things are funded out of the activity special revenue fund. So those you see a lot of fluctuations. I mean, they're pretty similar, but you'll see a lot of fluctuation in those. So again, here's the 25-26 proposed budget. We kind of went over all of the changes in general fund. We'll look at the preschool fund. Again, we raised rates this summer for the preschool fund to ensure that we're covering the cost of staffing and making sure that we're getting them what they need in the preschool fund. They're showing that they will have a projected fund equity of $8,000. I doubt that. I mean, I think we won't transfer as much from general fund, just to make sure that that doesn't keep building. I currently have in for next year to transfer 35,000, so we hope that it's not that much, but we have to wait and see. For the food service fund, based on what I'm seeing for this year, I think we'll have to have a spend down plan for next year, because we'll have approximately, I would say maybe 80 to 90,000 that we'll have to have a spend down plan for. The state doesn't require you to actually submit a plan now. They just let you know you have excess funds and you need to spend them down. But again, I just included small increases, and then I based these numbers off from our new contract that we approved with Chartwell's. So their fund equity is in good shape, so we don't have any concerns there other than just purchasing what we need. Again, the debt service fund, and this slide is all distorted, but the debt service fund is again just taking in tax money and paying out what we owe. For the debt, this year our QZAB payment goes up to $550,000, and that comes out of general fund for the QZAB payment. So sinking fund, again, we just kind of talked about that a little bit, but I've included in the sinking fund expenditure side of things to do approximately, I put in about $1 million to try to redo parking lots throughout the district. We're not real sure what those estimates will look like because we haven't gotten any official quotes yet, but we're looking at all the parking lots throughout the district to see what we can do as in parking lot replacement. And then, again, the student activity fund is going to be real similar to what it was last year, just kind of rolling it forward. And that is pretty much it. Does anybody have any questions?
I have two.
Okay.
One's for you, but one's for Gary.
Okay.
What is our structured literacy phonics-based program going to be next year?
So UFly is the resource that we're going to use, K-5. And that was, the state came out with, as part of the grant that Rochelle talked about for 35M, June 3rd, they came out with a list, and basically 3 lists. There was Tier 1 curriculum, UFly was on that list. There was intervention list, and there was also on the list for professional development. As part of the literacy and meeting the law, we'll continue to put some resources in that to help staff and students. But by 27, 28, our hope is, she talked about the literacy curriculum, is potentially get more of a comprehensive one that includes the foundational reading skills.
And we can't do that now? Why?
Well, partly because the teachers, we didn't know when the list is going to come out. The state actually comes out with a list by January 1st of 2026. This is an early list, and we're guaranteed that will be on the list. One of the drawbacks, because you're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars, if you picked one of them and it wasn't on the list, you're going to have to spend that money right again. Okay. So we were kind of at the waiting game to see which of them were approved by the committee for the state, because you don't want to spend your money and have to spend it right again.
Okay. So right now, our elementary level teachers are including phonics in their literacy program.
Correct. They're going to have some PD. So they did it in the small group. They're going to include it in Tier 1, the whole group instruction.
Okay.
They were to do it in the guided reading, and that was kind of hit or miss, partly because of the scope and sequence of the foundational reading skills, and the other part was based on the professional development that teachers had received.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm really excited that the state is putting some guidance behind it. The trick with the 35M grant was that the list came out June 3rd. So teachers had essentially left for the summer, but many of them did join virtual meetings. I set up a bunch of virtual meetings, a couple of surveys to get their input on what they feel like the best use of those grant dollars would be. I've got some quotes and also some things if we're going to pilot a program, because certainly we want teacher input if they're going to be the ones using it in the classroom.
Is there a cost to piloting the programs?
In most cases, no.
Yes, that's still the same.
Because they want your business.
They want your business, yeah. Okay.
I have quite a few materials in my office already, starting to build up. Excited to get the teachers' input And like I said, probably be ready for a full rollout in all 3 of those categories and feel really good about where we're at. Not quite this school year, it'll be more of a pilot year, and the following school year be full implementation.
Thank you.
But, yeah.
I know I got some information from you that I asked for Paul about the leasing of the autistic classrooms at Max Larson. And Emily sent me an email saying they did not send us a bill because it wasn't in the 23-24 requirement. So, but I know that there has to be an agreement of how much money the ISD pays us to use those buildings at Max Larson.
So it's here, I think here's what you're talking about. So basically it is, we bill them for operational costs.
Yes.
So we have to wait until the year is over to be able to bill them. So what we have typically done, I believe with them, is we get the amount of rooms that they're using in a building, then we get the square footage of that, and then we have to take the whole operation cost.
Okay, I understand all of that. I'm just, and I read that.
Mm-hmm.
I appreciated that information from you and from Emily. In my experience, when Head Start and ISD went into Lincoln,
Mhm.
there is a monthly rental agreement, a lease payment, that was also in Bronson, when you and I were both there, that we decided on for leasing the building.
So
It was
Lincoln,
$1,200 5 years ago at
it's,
Bronson.
so now, and I don't know when this changed, excuse me, because it's not that way now.
I know, and it's
since
confusing in what was sent to me.
Right, so right now, the ISD leases Lincoln for $1, but then they reimburse us for operational costs. So right now, they have the whole front building of Lincoln, so we wait until the end of the year to get all of our operational costs, and then we bill them back whatever the operational costs are for that square footage of that building.
So when Emily said it wasn't, she didn't bill them this year because it wasn't in the budget last year?
So it's a year behind.
Yeah.
So like for this year, so I gotta
For
remember.
25, 26, she said there won't be because they didn't invoice for 20, it's like you said, a year ahead.
Uh-huh.
So they didn't invoice last year, don't know why.
Okay,
But the ISD, and she said, I will not send another. I don't understand that because if they're using our building
mhm,
and we are billing them for operational costs,
mhm,
that space in that classroom technically should go to Coldwater kids first before the ISD. And I know we have a large caseload at Max Larson, class
Right.
size.
mhm,
So I would like that to be
right, and I think,
investigated.
right, and I think that may be more the superintendent.
I don't care who does it.
Right. I'm just saying, I mean, I know what the agreements are and what they're paying, but
Right.
I don't know the ins and outs of what was
And
agreed upon.
When we did it with Lincoln and when we did it with
Right.
Bronson,
Mhm,
it was based on square footage of
Correct.
usage. And it was not $1.
right, no, it wasn't.
It was $1,200 and
Right.
that was what, 6 or 8
So
years
they,
ago.
I think in Brunson, they were actually leasing the space, like we weren't billing
Yeah.
them operations
We paid for
costs,
the-
they were leasing the space.
We
so-
provided the operational costs.
Correct.
We put the $70,000 into those 4 classrooms and then paid you to use the building.
Correct. Yes.
Okay,
We'll get more clarification. for
thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? All right.
Thanks for sharing.
Thanks for sharing.
Thank you.
Oh, good. Yeah, right on time. Bang that gavel. Oh, no, I knew about it. I couldn't do it. You're forgiven. You're forgiven.
Okay, we're gonna call the meeting to order. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Roll call for the attendance.
Member Steele?
Here.
Member Lyon Welch?
Here.
Member Frederick?
Here.
Member Billsborough?
Here.
Member Holbrook?
Here.
Member Dean?
Here.
Member Lake?
Here. Thank you. Any public participation forms? I didn't see any. Visitors delegations. Approval of the minutes from May 19th of 2025. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Support.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next, we have any additions or deletions? No? Nope. All right, communications? No? Personnel recommendations? Mr. Flynn.
Be it resolved that relative to certified staff recommendations, the Board of Education approved the administrative recommendation to employ Jenny Blakely for the STEM teacher position at Lake Middle School effective for the 25-26 school year, pending background check. The Board of Education approved the administrative recommendation to employ Alexis Analytis for the math teacher position at Coldwater High School effective 25-26 school year, pending background check. The Board of Education approved the administrative recommendation to employ Karina Andrews for the elementary music teacher position at Max Larson Elementary, effective the 25-26 school year, pending background check. The Board of Education approved the administrative recommendation to employ Erin Ormsby for the English teacher position at Coldwater High School, effective the 25-26 school year, pending background check. The Board of Education approved the administrative recommendation to employ the following individuals for the Lakeland Elementary Summer School Program: Rachel Horde, lead teacher; Chris Hegeman, lead teacher. The Board of Education approved the administrative recommendation to employ Jessica Batchelor for the LMS Electives Department Chair, effective the 25-26 school year. Board of Education accept the child care leave request from Vanessa Sullivan beginning August 11, 2025 for the entirety of the 25-26 school year, ending tentatively on August 10, 2026, or otherwise the date determined as the return to work date for all teachers. Relative to support staff recommendations, the Board of Education approved the administrative recommendation to employ Katie Fitch for the part-time supervisor position at Jefferson Elementary, effective the 25-26 school year. The Board of Education approved the administrative recommendation to employ Iman Shabain for the part-time supervisor position at Lakeland Elementary, effective the 25-26 school year. The Board of Education approved the administrative recommendation to employ Taya Vosberg for the part-time caregiver position at Kids Club, effective immediately upon board approval. The Board of Education accept the resignation of Virginia Dow from the part-time bus monitor position, effective April 31st, 2025. The Board of Education approved the termination of Brianna Massey from the part-time caregiver position effective May 20th, 2025. Relative to extra duty assignments, the Board of Education accept the resignation of Ron LaBelle from the JV boys tennis coach position effective immediately upon board approval. The Board of Education accept the resignation of Stacy Maddox from the the varsity gymnastics coach position effective immediately upon board approval. And the Board of Education accept the resignation of C.C. DeWitt from the cross-country coach position at Lake Middle School, effective June 17, 2025.
Thank you very much. Next, we have acceptance of gifts via member Lyon Welch.
Recently, the administration was made aware of the following gifts offered by the donors listed below. Recognition and approval for acceptance of the gift are being sought. Branch County Community Monetary Funds for Max Larson Elementary, it's all one. Branch County Community Foundation Grant, monetary funds for the hands-on math kits for the Max Larson Elementary teacher Jamie Schwartz, value $818.95. The gracious and continued support of the donor listed above is sincerely appreciated. We ask that the board accept the gift noted and acknowledge the donor's generosity. Be it resolved that the Board of Education gratefully accepts the gifts as presented, and be it further resolved that a letter of appreciation on behalf of the board be sent to the donor indicated above for their worthwhile and generous gift.
Thank you very much. Next, we have approval of the accounts for payment, May via member Frederick.
Be it resolved that the following accounts for May be approved for payment as follows. General fund accounts in the amount of $2,070,474,098. Well, that was tough. Special revenue accounts in the amount of $247,339.21. And be it resolved, general fund financial statements be approved as presented.
Thank you very much. That is the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Support. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next, we have discussion items. None? Nope. We have the building reports in your packet. And curriculum instruction report is in your packet. You wish to add anything?
Just that Rochelle talked a little bit about the 35M grant. Like I said, that list came out June 3rd. We have to apply by July 11th. So pretty quick timeline to get feedback. So putting the literacy items in the budget, making that a priority just gives us a little flexibility as I work with the admin team and teachers to make sure we put all those pieces in place.
Okay. The athletics report is in your packet. Board committee reports, we had a budget and finance committee report on June 19th. We discussed the final budgets for 24-25, 25-26, contract adjustments for the transportation director, the county assistant, curriculum director, and the chief financial officer. Superintendent's report.
I provided you with your superintendent report printout at your space. A lot's been going on. One of the things we've talked about this year was high school graduation date change. And while I know my research, I don't believe that that requires board action. We would like to move graduation to May 31st, which is a Sunday, 2026 at 5 p.m. Senior swing out and convocation will be Friday, May 22nd. We found these last couple of years, especially running into conflicts with AP tests. And some other issues. So we would like to move that, and we believe that even more people will be able to come to the graduation ceremony. Yes,
When is the last day of school next year?
May 29th, the
Okay.
Friday before.
Or Friday before graduation?
Right, so the seniors' last day will be Friday, May 22nd.
Okay.
And then the underclassmen will have final exams the following week.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Do we get paid for going to graduation?
No, you do not.
I think,
Why not?
Because it's a support of kids. I don't know why not. Because it's not an official committee meeting.
well, we can get reserved seats somewhere else other than
We'll put
in
you
front of the
wherever
concrete wall.
put you on the stage if you'd like.
I don't care, just
Okay.
don't want to be in front of the concrete wall.
Be happy to accommodate.
You're out of the sun there.
So I enjoy the shade.
I don't care. Wear sunblock.
Well, maybe Ed should get paid for all the work he
Is
does
there a
at
reason?
graduation. Not all of us have to do what Ed does at graduation.
Is
A lot of
there,
hands to shake.
is there a reason they do swing out then convocation?
I don't know.
It seems backwards to me. It seems like you sit the kids down in the chairs and give them all their stuff and then let them go do the party. Instead of doing the downtown thing and then they all go back to the high school and have to sit back down.
I agree.
It's something that's open for, it can be open for discussion.
Yeah, that makes
Absolutely.
sense.
It seems just, you
And
know.
years ago, they did swing out and then had pizza in the parking lot.
Yeah, we had a cookout and
Yeah.
everything. It seems backwards to me to have them do that whole party, we're out of here thing and then, all right, go sit back down at the gym. We got some things we gotta handle.
My first guess would be if they did it too close to the end of the day, because I know they go from place to place on school buses. So we'd have to make sure that the buses and everybody are back before kids get out. But no, it's something we're always looking to improve any experience.
And I'm not suggesting that I was just curious of the reason, if there was one, or not that we know of yet, but we can look at it.
Yeah, I'll just tell you the words that I hate, that Rochelle and I hate, because it's always been done that way.
Yeah, right?
Because it's always been done that way. So, next, Pedal Across Lower Michigan or Palm Bicycle Tours will be here tomorrow and leaving on Wednesday. About 500 riders are riding across the lower peninsula, and this is all organized by Tom Rose, right? Is that the name?
Yep.
Former police officer, yes. Yeah, former police officer. And so they will camp out by the junior high. They'll use the pool facility, the aquatic center.
Well, that's good.
Chartwells will be providing them with lunch or dinner and breakfast, and which it was easy. I called Tamara. She goes, "Oh yeah, we do it every time." So this has been going on for quite a while, I guess. But they'll be coming through tomorrow. Boys, this is an informational item. Boys soccer trip to Kimball Camp. I approved of that. It's towards the end of August. It is an overnight camp, but if you recall, we approved the policy that if it was in-state and just an overnight thing, the superintendent could then approve. So this is the first one that came to my desk, so I thought I'd share that with you. HRS, or High School or High Reliability Schools Framework Administration didn't attend a 3-day conference, but we're continuing to work on that. And we're still working on preparation for Teachers' First Day in Professional Development and how we're going to continue with that. Student Art Expo downtown, the new display for student artwork was celebrated on May 30th on the north side of Jewel's Law Office on Monroe Street, and which you can go and see starting Thursday night. Hops on Monroe starts this Thursday. So you can take a look at those. It's a very nice display. Aquatic Center report, this is from Audrina, Saturday, June 14th. They hosted the swim portion of the 2025 Michigan Summer Games sponsored by Meyer. Had 5 different teams in the competition, 64 swimmers and 85 spectators. What I'm very proud of is that they certified 13 lifeguards this month alone for staff and community members. Had the honor to host the Rotary Club and Mission Doa from Hillsdale. It's different groups that had meetings there. And then so far this year have given lessons to 120 individuals, ages 6 months through adult, through classes, and 30 individuals took private lessons. They're now providing 9 water fitness classes throughout the week. Summer programs start in July, but they will be closed that first week of July for cleaning and maintenance. Barracuda's summer session has begun with 28 swimmers, and then some comparatives that they did. If you look at the month of June in 2024 and then the month of June in 2025, usage in 2024, 2,503 people, and as of June 17th, 1,459 people. Memberships in 24 were 106. They were frozen for some reason. And then current memberships for 2025 is went from 110 to 147. And then water fitness, they had, as of June 17th this year, 164 participants for their water fitness classes. So a lot of good things going on at the Aquatic Center, and we're continuing to try to figure out how to best submit that data to the board each month so we can keep track.
You want to talk about the bond?
Oh yeah, thank you. The bond process, the next step is the steering committee. So starting on Wednesday, I'll be sending out emails. Thank you to those of you who gave me some suggestions on people to contact. Heather has the contact information for the people that participated the last time, and I'm expecting that she'll be back on Wednesday of this week. And then once we get commitment from people for the steering committee, we'll start setting meeting dates and getting them on the calendar. So that's where we are. And if you looked at the local paper, Quincy just hired the same architect firm that we're using, TMP, for their next bond project. So,
They're not going out in May too, are they?
I don't know what, I don't know, because they're looking for a new superintendent right now, so I don't know what their plan is. But I can find that out too.
In that 118-page compilation of that we got from the architect,
Uh-huh, that's the draft report.
okay,
Yeah,
we can't talk about it yet.
you can.
They said we need a new water softener somewhere. Why don't we buy that?
Because it's probably in the high school and that would be included with the bond.
Oh. And then it said the food service people needed several equipment updates or renewals or purchases. Why don't we spend down the cafeteria fund and
Yeah.
do that?
We can look at that, absolutely.
Okay. Next, we have the action items. Recommendation to approve the amendments to the 2024-2025 budgets. Be resolved that the Board of Education adopts the 2024-2025 general fund, food service, preschool, daycare, debt fund, sinking fund, activity special revenue fund as presented. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Support.
Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Member Billsborough?
Yes.
Member Dean?
Yes.
Member Steele?
Yes.
Member Frederick?
Yes.
Member Holbrook?
Yes.
Member Lyon Welsh?
Yes.
Member Lake?
Yes, motion passes. Next, we have the recommendation to adopt the 2025-2026 budgets as presented. Similar to the previous one, is there a motion?
So moved.
Any discussion? Did you get two people there? Okay. Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Member Steele?
Yes.
Member Lyon Welsh?
Yes.
Member Frederick?
Yes.
Member Billsborough?
Yes.
Member Dean?
Yes.
Member Lake?
Yes.
Member Holbrook?
Yes.
$10. Next, we have the board approval of the tax rate request. Be it resolved, the Board of Education approves the filing of the 2025 tax rate request form L4029 with the Branch County Clerk, Equalization Board, and City and Township Clerks. And be it further resolved that the board president and secretary of the Board of Education be authorized to sign the form L4029 on behalf of the Board of Education. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Support.
Any discussion? Does everybody understand it?
It's just
I
something.
mean,
we
typically
have to
when we
do.
go for a bond,
This is just for us to request our money.
we always request more though. We request 21, and then it gradually whittles down. Is that a roll call? Must be a roll call vote.
No, it doesn't have it as a roll call vote, but
I think it is.
Does that? Does it? Okay. We'll run with it. Member Lyon Welsh?
Yes.
Member Frederick?
Yes.
Member Billsborough?
Yes.
Member Dean?
Yes.
Member Lake?
Yes.
Member Holbrook?
Yes.
Member Steele?
Yes.
Next, we have the recommendation to approve the CFO employment contract. Be it resolved, the Board of Education approves the terms of the Chief Financial Officer employment contract for Rochelle Roby beginning July 1st, 2025 through June 30th of 2027 as presented. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Support.
This was discussed in the Budget and Finance Committee and felt to be appropriate. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next, we have the recommendation to approve the superintendent employment contract. Be it resolved, the Board of Education approves the superintendent employment contract for Paul Flynn beginning July 1st, 2025 through June 30th of 2028 as presented. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Support.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next, we have the recommendation to grant wage increase to all individual contracts for the 2025-2026 school year. Be it resolved, the Board of Education approves the same 2% wage increase for the 2025-2026 school year for all maintenance, central office support staff, and the administrators as presented. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Support.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Next, we have the recommendation to approve the employment contracts for the Director of Transportation, Curriculum Director, and the Accounting Assistant. Be it resolved, the Board of Education approves the employment contracts for the Director of Transportation, the Curriculum Director, and the Accounting Assistant as presented. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Support.
Any discussion? This also was discussed at the Budget and Finance Committee. All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Next, we have the recommendation to adopt the 2025-2026 Michigan High School Athletic Association MHSAA resolution. Be it resolved, the Coldwater Community Schools Board of Education adopts the 2025-2026 membership resolution for the Michigan High School Athletic Association as submitted. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Support.
Any discussion?
This just makes us a member of the MHSAA?
Correct.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next, we have recognition of teacher tenure. At Max Larson, we have Andrew Esterline, Hannah Haverl, Nick Haverl, Marge Hart. At Jefferson, we have Susan Mueller. At Lakeland Elementary, we have Elizabeth Smith, Alina Safransky, Rebecca Thompson. At Lake Middle School, we have Jason Brantley, Aaron Brown, and Matt Harter. At Coldwater High School, we have Amy Leeper, Alicia Terpstra, Nathan Waterbury, Jessica Zander. Be it resolved, the Board of Education acknowledges the following teachers have completed their probationary period, and the Coldwater Community Schools are eligible for state and district tenure on June 30th of 2025. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Support.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next, we have the recommendation to approve the student and athletic photography services provided by Focus and Frame, formerly known as Prater Studios. Be it resolved, the Board of Education approves the received photography services provided by Focus and Frame, formerly known as Prater Studios, for the 2025-2026 school year as presented. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Support.
Any discussion?
Has he sold his business?
Yeah.
Fred?
Yep.
He sold it?
That's what it's, yeah, to his business manager,
Yeah.
office manager.
Yeah, they met with us last spring and talked about the business plan, so the name will be changing, but it'll still be the same services.
Yep. Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next, we have a request to approve the invoices from SETSAG for property casualty insurance renewal and workers' compensation renewal. Be resolved, the Board of Education approves the invoice from SETSAG for the district's renewal of general liability, educators, legal liability, property builder's risk, auto physical damage, and equipment breakdown coverages for $239,688 as presented. Be it further resolved that the Board of Education approves the invoice from SETSAG for this district's renewal of workman's compensation coverage for $13,244 as presented. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Support.
Do you know what the cost of the workman's comp has been over the last few years?
For us?
Or is it similar?
Well, it's kind of dependent on your.
I know, I just
rating.
wondered.
I don't know the estimated cost right offhand, I don't.
Okay, it's a roll call vote.
All right, Member Dean,
Yes.
Member Frederick,
Yes.
Member Ryan Welsh,
Yes.
Member Steele,
Yes.
Member Billsborough,
Yes.
Member Holbrook,
Yes.
Member Lake.
Yes. Next, motion passes. Next, we have the request to approve the invoice from Education Advanced Incorporated for the renewal of the district's evaluation tool for certified and non-certified staff. Be it resolved, the Board of Education approves the invoice from Education Advanced Incorporated for $5,028 for the renewal of the district's evaluation tool for certified and non-certified staff as presented. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Support.
Any discussion? How long have we had this service? Anybody know?
It's formally known as stages when the state changed to required rubrics, went to this online system, so
Probably close to 10 years ago?
over 10 years
You think
probably.
over 10?
Yeah.
This is the first time
They changed names.
Yeah, they do.
I know, but I would have asked about it last year too.
Oh, you mean about the,
Yeah.
maybe
Well,
they
it's been
raised the price.
$5,000.
Maybe they raised the price.
I don't know if in the past this was brought to the board. I believe that it was seen as a needed contract, as it was explained to me by Heather that she wasn't sure that this went to the board, but I said we're working in complete transparency and it's over $5,000, so let's take it to the board.
Just barely.
Yeah.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next, we have the request to approve the invoice from Johnson Controls for the repair to the fire alarm system at the Dr. Robert W. Brown Aquatic Center. Be it resolved, the Board of Education approves the invoice from Johnson Controls for $6,043.17 for the repairs to the fire alarm system at the Dr. Robert W. Brown Aquatic Center as presented. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Support.
Any discussion?
Can you give us some history about that? The fire alarm system, what went wrong?
Well, I'm not sure what went wrong with it, but it has to be serviced every year, it has to be inspected every year. I don't know the particulars
So
of
that's
what.
for servicing and inspecting it?
It
Or
was,
repairing it?
It says there's a duct detector causing alarms and not functioning properly.
Okay.
And then they found a trouble on the panel for a device.
Okay.
And it looks like a couple other issues maybe.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next, we have the request to approve the quote from Curriculum Associates LLC. Be it resolved, the Board of Education approves the quote from Curriculum Associates LLC for $27,560 to be paid out of the grant funds for the district's subscription for services effective August 1st, 2025 through July 31st, 2026. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Support.
What do they do for us?
Thank you. I was gonna ask.
so this is curriculum assistance for our ELL students
Okay.
and the testing that goes along with
Do we-
that.
And it essentially has two platforms. There's one that offers like on-demand PD for staff, and we'll pull up lessons that will integrate to the ML students in their classroom. And then districts are required to monitor ML progress, and the other half of it is a tool that allows
To do that.
teachers to monitor that and communicate with each other, much like an IEP or 504.
Okay.
Thank you. We have a motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. The next regular meeting of the organizational meeting of the Coldwater Board of Education will take place on July 7th, 2025 at 6 o'clock in the evening at the Administrative Service Center. Next, we have a request to conduct an executive session under PA 267, Section 8A, to consider a periodic personnel evaluation of an employee. This is a roll call vote. Okay, is there a motion?
So moved.
Support.
Any discussion? No.
Member Dean,
Yes.
Member Frederick,
Yes.
Member Lion Welsh,
Yes.
Member Steele,
Yes.
Member Billsboro,
Yes.
Member Holbrook,
Yes.
Member Lake.
Yes. We are in.
See you next time.
Bye.